Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm glad you stopped here on your way. If you feel like taking a tea break, or a coffee or soju break, press the pause button, fill up that mug or glass, and then join me as we savor this work of art. The first shining gem I have to put up on the gallery wall for you today is the 2019 movie Better Days, brought to us by a director from Hong Kong. Better Days is the product of a confluence of superb acting, cinematography, directing, and story writing. As such, I think it is one of those rare examples of excellent art. So it was an easy first pick for me to place in my curated gallery to share with you all. Better Days was promoted as a movie about bullying, which it certainly is, yet I found it to be much more profoundly at its heart a love story, and a love story about a deep sacrificial love. Because of the heaviness of the subject matter of bullying, I put off watching this one for about a year, but I'm so glad I saw it and have rewatched it 3 times so far. My life has been enriched by the images of divine love it evokes for me as I watch it and meditate on it. I think this movie is also an indictment of any culture that pushes performance and productivity in its citizenry, but not sacrificial love. You'll have to see if you agree with me on this or not. The theme quote that I pulled out from the movie is a quote from Oscar Wilde. It's actually from his play, Lady Windermere's Fan. Let me read it for you quickly. "We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars." This quote, of course, speaks to our human condition and the struggles and difficulties we all experience at different times in our lives. And yet, our perspective really matters. What are we looking at? When I saw this quote appear on the screen in the context of the movie, my mind went to the morning star and the fact that Jesus is called the morning star. He's the one that we're told to look to in our troubles and difficulties. That then made my little rabbit trails mind go to John chapter 15, verse 3, where Jesus is speaking and he says, "Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends." The church father Athanasius had this to say, "God became man, that man might become God." Okay, so all of these quotes are swirling around in my head, and I'm thinking about love that's then turned outward and expressed toward others. We see this in the movie in the very opening scenes and in the very closing scenes. And not to give any major spoilers away, I'll just leave it at that for now. All right, moving on to some scenes from the movie that pertain to the love theme of the movie. Goodness, this was such a beautifully saturated film in terms of images for me as I watched it. So I picked just a few that really stood out to me. This scene is actually saved now on my phone as my lock screen so that I can see it every day and be reminded of how I want to live. To me, this kissing of the bloodied and bruised face of our male lead by the female lead just hit me as a picture like an icon of Christ. We have here our female lead's incredible bravery in a confession of sorts. Not a romantic love confession, certainly, yet, but a willingness to bravely see the suffering of another person and do something about it. She tries to stop the beating that's happening and to go ahead and kiss the bloody face of our male lead as she's being threatened. So this is a confession of sorts. It made me think of some Christians who've had to choose between confessing Christ as their Savior or instead denying Him and even trampling on an image or icon of Christ. We also get an echo-like return of this kiss later on in the movie when our male lead kisses our female lead in an effort to save her. All right, the next image that I chose from the movie is our male lead following behind our female lead. This was beautiful to me. I loved the idea of him offering to provide protection for her by shadowing her, walking behind her and beside her, and going before her at times. So this made me think of the St. Patrick breastplate prayer, which should be coming up on your screen now. A prayer that Christ would go before us and behind us, beside us, just all around us. Within this image of presence and protecting and shadowing, there's also an element of play going on. As we see in the movie, the two of them are finally able at times to be childlike and playful with each other in their relationship and companionship. Childlike is something they really couldn't be before because the adults in their lives had frankly abandoned them. The adults weren't doing their jobs, so the kids had to step up early and act adult. The next image is the head shaving scene. This was a very powerful moment in the movie for me, and I hope for you as well. This scene where our male lead identifies with our female lead in her suffering. She's just come from an ultimately humiliating bullying episode, and he, by choice, is essentially naked and vulnerable along with her, and then goes a step further, and after he shaves off the rest of her hair, he then shaves his own head. This kind of intimate coming alongside another person in their sorrow or shame or whatever brought to my mind the way Christ identified with us in our humanity and suffering. And for anyone who is a fan of C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia series, it also made me think of the lion Aslan and that moment where he is humiliated and shaved before his sacrifice. Later on, there's a scene at the police station where the police detectives are conferring, and one of the detectives says to the others with incredulity in her voice, something like this: "Who would take the rap for another person?" Well, I found that question to be sadly revealing, again, about the adults in the movie, at least for the majority of the movie. And our final image is at the police station or prison visiting room. This wonderful cinematography here. We've got another confession. This time our female lead has finally come clean and confessed her crime, and she is visiting the male lead in prison, and you've got the two of them gazing at each other and smiling and crying and laughing. Such a wordless emotional range is displayed here. Sorrow, joy, pain, relief, and love. And their faces, as they're gazing at each other, are being reflected and transposed on each other through the glass barrier. The intimacy and the connection, the each for the otherness between these two individuals is palpable. Again, I thought this was a beautiful image captured in the movie. All right, and the last offering I have is a piece of music that pertains to the movie's theme. It's a song by our male lead actor, Jackson Yee, and the song is titled Better Us. I've got a link provided below so you can listen to it. The translation that I looked at included some lyrics in English that stood out to me. There's a line that goes like this: I insist to wait for you to smile, to come back. And later on, this line: you can come into my world and be a child and be free. The song in itself is a lovely thing, I think. I've listened to it over and over and over again. I really appreciate this song and other songs by Jackson Yee, actually. I hope you'll get a chance to listen to it and appreciate it as well. So, in closing, I wish us all to have a good day as we do our best to stay awake, to gather the beautiful. Thank you so much for stopping by.